Hey guys, welcome to episode 15. I'm super excited to be doing this episode today because I have two amazing women who are great at having conversations about this type of stuff. I have Kudzayi in the house and I have Carol in the house. Kudzayi, what's going on, girl? How are you?
Hi, Michelle. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Um, the issue about ultimatums has been very topical over the last week or past 2 weeks. So I'm very excited to jump into this conversation.
Yay, yes, girl. And I'm so excited as well because on this podcast, guys, we stay delivering hot, fresh content. Carol, what's up, girl? What's going on?
Hello. I'm good. I'm so excited to talk about this. So I'm ready to just start it out. So
Yay. I love it. I love it. So yeah, for all the people who are listening right now, the I guess what sparked this episode to start off with is the Netflix show which just came out like a few weeks ago, which is called The Ultimatum. And so what we're actually gonna do though in this episode is the first half of the episode, we're gonna talk about ultimatums in general. And then the second half of the episode will then go into the actual show. So that way, people who didn't watch the show or who are not going to watch the show can still relate to the content. And then we can jump into the actual series later on. So yeah, so just wanted to prep you guys on that. And actually, as part of my intro, I actually did a little poll thing on Instagram because I was curious to just see what people think out there about the whole idea of giving somebody an ultimatum, right? So I put it on Instagram and I was like, ultimatums, and people had to vote between, sometimes they're necessary or it should never be the case, right? Or it should never get there, right? So two options, sometimes they're necessary or it should never get there. And 64% of the people who voted said that it should never get there. And then 36% said that sometimes they're necessary. So, of course, this is also just based on my sample of people who are on my Instagram, right? But we can see here that like one is more popular than the other. I think from people who follow me on Instagram, people lean more towards it should never get there. But this discussion is going to be interesting because I'm going to get to hear what the guests on the show have to think about that. And also, before we even get into all of that, let's start with the definition of an ultimatum. This is from Google here. So it says an ultimatum is a final demand or statement of terms, the rejection of which will result in retaliation or a breakdown in relations. So how I've seen ultimatums sometimes is actually, it's not even like at the point where people have been dating and you're saying, hey, if you don't pop the question, I'm walking away. That's one type of ultimatum. Another ultimatum could be you've been talking to somebody for years or months, right? And you give them the ultimatum like, hey, if we don't make things official, I'm walking away. So now that we've done that, let me hear what my people here have to say about ultimatums. Carol, what are your thoughts? Ultimatums, are they okay or are they a no for you?
um I would like to say that I was actually very much a pro ultimatum. I've given out several ultimatums um, in my relationships. And after, I don't even think it was the show that kind of changed my perspective, but a series of events plus the show did. And now I am against ultimatums.
Okay. Woo, strong opening. This girl was like, listen, there is pro and there's against, and I am against. Kudzayi, let's hear your opening statement, girl. Are you for them or are you against them?
So I'm definitely for ultimatums. I believe that a person should just know what they want and not waste the other party's time. So in that context, I definitely believe that an ultimatum is necessary so that we know how are we proceeding from here. Are we just talking or we actually going to have something, in the future?
Oh, okay. I like that. From what I'm picking up from what Kudzayi is saying, one of the big things that a lot of people think about when they're giving an ultimatum is, hey, like time has already been spent and I just don't want to continue to waste time, right? So I think looking in uh, at the situation myself, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense for your time not to continue to get wasted. I think sometimes it is necessary to actually bring up ultimatums. I stand in the middle. I'm like, it really depends. Carol, let's hear more about kind of like that transition, right? Because you said, you know, you had been in relationships, so you issued ultimatums, and now you've kind of changed to where you're like, you are now against them. So what changed your mind there?
Okay, so for me, I think it's more time. I'd like to say, yeah, time definitely has changed my perspective of it, and just with the aspect of time comes learning and understanding, like, myself personally. So you know, I'm kind of self-guided in this life. I don't know how many other people are as self-guided as I am, but when it came to that aspect of finding love, it's kind of, you know, I really don't have a lot of people to lean on that I'm fully confident in taking their advice. So it's more of like self-guidance. So my change came when I realized my true self and what I want generally. And I realized that I can deliver the same message without the weight of saying do or die, which is what I translate an ultimatum to be. So it's always a discussion for me. I raise my suggestion, my opinion, or my stance. And if it goes against my stance, I don't think I have any power over anyone to say, hey, in order to fulfill my need or my requirement, I'm going to tell you to do this and we can move forward. So now more open to a discussion versus a do or die situation, which is what I translate as an ultimatum. So that's what
Oh,
I change.
okay, okay. I'm actually curious too, because when you mentioned ultimatums in relationships for you in the past, were they kind of like the ultimatums of transitioning from talking to being like in a committed relationship, or was it more of, you know, when you're in the relationship talking about timelines in terms of, okay, when we take that next step of like getting engaged or whatever?
I've had experiences with both, sad to say.
Okay. I mean, I don't
So,
think it's sad. Own it. Own it. Yeah, go
you know,
ahead.
so I think when it came to, let's say the first one, I was actually in a very committed relationship. Both both parties were in agreement, and it was one of those relationships where it was based on the condition that this person fit my ideal partner. In
Mhm.
the sense of, let's say, how do you feel about opinions, family, and everything like that? What do you value the most? So yeah, that was more, I was in a relationship and I was at a point where I do have a certain role that I've set for myself, which is after a year I need somewhat an advancement in our relationship, to show that we are still walking towards marriage, which is why I date in general. So yeah, it came to that 1 year mark, and you know, the discussion about my need, which was something that I discussed with this person early on in our relationship, started to become very, you know, okay, I hear you. So the ultimatum was, either this is going to happen or I'm actually going to physically leave the town that I was living in at that time. So
Girl,
yeah, it
sorry.
sounds
No, I'm laughing. No, I'm
extreme.
laughing because I'm like, dang, girl, like, are you gonna skip old towns? I mean, each time you issue an ultimatum, or maybe it was just the case you were in at the time. You
Yeah,
were
it
at a
was.
point where you were ready to leave the city,
Yeah,
right?
it
Is that
was
what you
also
mean?
the case. So even
Okay.
the whole town leaving discussion did not just start with this ultimatum. It was developed within the relationship and
Oh, I
discussion.
see.
Both parties kind of had a swagway to say, okay, moving towns would be a good thing for a relationship. So once I saw that discussion was kind of going down, and what he, I don't know if it was his need because I didn't have the discussion, right, but it was less
Mm.
of the town moving talking, and I'm like, okay, so if I'm not moving towns, then well, we might as well be married. Not married, but engaged, I would like to say. I think I wanted a ring at that time, and you know, I brought up the discussion about marriage, and when he saw, to put a ring on my finger, and basically kind of like reiterated what I had said initially in the beginning of our relationship, that hey, this was my term and condition. And yeah, you know, resentment started developing in the relationship because I did not receive the answer that I wanted. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, I mean, oh, fortunately, actually, fortunately, I moved. Fortunately, I moved. So that was the first case. The second case was a talking stage situation where I too had a rule about myself. And Michelle, you know me and my deadlines and rules and
Yeah.
type.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was in a situation where it was this talking stage, and I'd gone past due in terms of moving from the talking stage into an actual relationship by like 3 times my actual time frame, right? And I gave the ultimatum, and I acted on the ultimatum. So I was more like steady and stern with my decision, to the point where I removed time, quality time, which is my love language, from the person up until I got what I felt is what I wanted, right? But now, yeah, so both cases are kind of the situations where it's like it's a self-centered need base that someone is needing to fulfill. And now, given my time and the experience I have with these ultimatums, I'm definitely leaning towards not giving them anymore and leaning towards more having discussions with the people and just taking people's discussions and opinion as they are. And if they don't align, I don't even know if I should communicate that they don't align, because that hurts a lot of people's feelings. But just find my scapegoats, just that's like a plan, and I can leave that way up until, God willing, I find someone who not perfectly aligns, but who somewhat gets into is more compatible with my desires and needs. Yeah,
I
so
like that. Was solid. That was really solid. I think some things that you brought up, that I picked up was like, okay, you're not into ultimatums anymore where you say like this or I'm out. However, you do have discussions and then you see if you're aligning. And then I guess from there you can make your decision. Something, a word that you also dropped in what you were saying was the word need. And I think what you actually said was self-centered need. So I think for me, I think that in the end, right? Like at the end of the day, before you're married, right? So this doesn't apply to people who are in a marriage, but before you're married, ultimately both of you are single, and I do think that there is a need to also very much care about your own needs, right? In the sense that, like, let's say you want to be married by a certain age, and you've been dating someone or in a relationship with someone for like, let's say even 2 years, right? I don't think it's a bad thing to actually be like, marriage is a need for me. And I want to find out from you if you're going to marry me or if you're not going to marry me. Because if you're not going to marry me, there's no point for me to stay in this relationship because I want marriage. So I don't think that it's actually a bad thing to have needs. It's just more of, I think people communicate their needs differently. And I think to your point, Carol, I think where you were trying to move away from was kind of telling someone what your needs are and expecting them to give you your needs. I also think that it's actually not a bad thing if you tell someone what your need is and then they tell you, hey, I don't want to marry you right now. I don't see myself marrying you in the next year, right? Because at that point, it's up to you to then decide, hey, okay, do I want to like wait for another like 2 years and see if you'll get there, or should I just move? So I think that ultimatums, when you issue them, and let's say like, the person says, yes, I want to marry you, or you issue the ultimatum and the person says, no, I don't want to marry you. Either way, you've received something that you wanted. Essentially, this person, if they say no, they won't marry you, they're not going to waste my time and I can move on. And if they say, sure, they want to marry me, then we get married. But Kudzayi, let's hear from you on all of this.
So I think that giving an ultimatum is sort of like a last resort. It's not like the first measure that I'm going to use to try to communicate what I really want. So because it's a last measure, that means that I've really tried to engage my partner and discussed what I really want from them. And if I'm not getting the results, maybe ultimately I have to issue that ultimatum. Secondly, I also think that the word ultimatum, it's not such a bad word, but I just think that people think it's a bad word. And I'll speak about a situation that I've been in before. talking stage relationship. We were talking, everything was going really fine. We were hanging out, and whenever I would ask these guys, so what are we? He would probably just like dodge the question and accuse me that I like fighting with him, which I think that's very weird. So already I was starting to see the signs that maybe this person enjoys the benefits of being with me, but doesn't want to make that commitment, which is what I'm basically looking for at this point in my life. And also, it was almost like 6 months into the talking stage, which I think asking what are we was very justified at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. So it also got to a stage where I was like, you know what, like I need more from you, like where is all of this going? Because I've been seeing you exclusively. I'm not seeing any other people. So I need you to define this. And also one thing about an ultimatum, when you issue one, I think you should be ready for anything, The person might say yes, the person might say no. So you must also bear that in mind, that I'm giving an ultimatum and I should also be ready for whatever the person is going to tell me.
So I like that.
Yeah, you should be ready. And also you should be ready to leave, because I think if someone says that they cannot give you what you're specifically asking for, it's actually a good thing. It's a blessing in disguise, I think, because now you're able to move on, start seeing other people. Probably you meet someone else who's on the same page with you in terms of like getting into a relationship. Because so many times we waste so much time like letting the guy take the lead, and I think the ultimatum actually gives you power also to like say, you know what, it's either we're going in this direction or we would rather not do this at all, because it gets to a point where we're just wasting each other's time. It's nice, but where is this going?
That's you know what, I think that's so solid, and something that you said that resonated with me too, especially when you're talking about that whole talking stage and making things official, or even when people have been dating and like taking things to the next stage of like being married. I think sometimes guys get very comfortable in the state that they're in with you, right? Like they're like, oh, I mean, we've been talking, like we're having a good time together. Like you said, right? I think both of you brought up like the whole quality time thing. She gives me quality time. Like we're going on dates. This person has access to you. And to them, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't really need a commitment, you know what I mean? And so that's why I think it is important to even like asking that. I guess when you ask someone, what are we? That's actually not an ultimatum. It's just like, what are we? Right. But the next step from there would be, hey, like we've been talking for 6 months or whatever time period that is, and we're still not progressing to being in a relationship, then I'm out. And I think also something to be very I guess aware of, and like you said, Kudzayi, is to be able to be ready for whatever the other person says. And I also think that you should think about what you're telling this person, because if you go to someone and you say, if we are not going to make things official in the next month, I am leaving, and he does not make things official in the next month, but sis, you're still there after 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, right? Like he can never take you seriously because you're not like putting your foot down. So those are my thoughts on that.
And I would actually like to back up. This is firsthand experience. And I also I give it to also not knowing the definition of an ultimatum. Like I think I would dish it out because that's what I wanted, right? And although I'll state it, and although they'll say or claim that they hear you and understand you and they'll do better, I still stayed in the terms and conditions of comfort. And it never came. So
Wait, Carol, so in other words, Carol, are you saying you issued the ultimatum and said, I'm going to leave, but then you didn't leave all the time?
Yeah. I didn't know I didn't know the definition of ultimatum. I was like, and I also didn't believe in myself that I was ready to take that stance, right? But I felt that, time is ticking and this is what's going on. I'm past my deadlines. So I mean, I'll dish it out in terms of verbally dishing it out as an issue. But to walk Oh yeah, I never walked, and I think for me the ultimatum was when I actually knew the definition of it, and it's also an
Mhm.
action. It has to be taken with an action post,
Yeah.
So I was ready for whatever action that or response they were going to give me. Like Kudzayi said, you need to be ready for that, and either way, something was going to happen. Either that was going to continue the relationship, or I was just going to completely just erase it.
Man. Yeah, and something that I was actually thinking about just now when we're talking about ultimatums and how there's that talking stage one into a relationship, then relationship into marriage.
Mhm.
This is my thing, okay? And like Kudzayi said, going off of what she said, if it's one of those things where the ultimatum was the last resort, so you've had talks,
Yeah.
endless talks with this person, and you've gotten to that ultimatum point, which is the last resort in the talking stage, and you're like, listen, if we don't get into a relationship in the next 2 weeks, I'm out, right? And then, at the end of the 2 weeks, it's like, okay, I want to be in a relationship. The thing is, I feel like sometimes as the woman who's issuing out ultimatums, sometimes I think it's important to really look within. If it took you so much
Mhm.
effort to get this guy to transition from talking to be in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with you, just know that even when it comes to like that next step of like, let's move from the relationship into marriage, it's if it took you so much effort the first time, now imagine
Mm-hmm.
like getting a ring from someone. So I think also, I don't know, like the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, if it takes you so much effort to get someone to even move from talking to a relationship, I don't know if you should think it would be easy to get this person to marry you in the first place.
And I'd like to throw in something, Michelle,
Mm-hmm.
because I think perspective is different for
Mm-hmm.
everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think all of us here are very much traditional women. So we come from a different culture
Mm-hmm.
where what we saw was men pursuing women, men initiating,
Mm-hmm.
men taking the leadership
Mm-hmm.
role. But then now I'd like to believe that we're all in different environments and cultures where we are also having to adapt, but without losing ourselves in that. So there's a lot of compromising that has to I feel, let me speak to myself, that there's a lot of compromise that is happening because of that transition period. So sometimes with ultimatums, it's also because sometimes it's not the man is waiting for a woman to initiate the conversation. I also think it could be a timely thing. Maybe men from their culture, they value, let's say, for example, they need to be more financially stable
Mm-hmm.
or reach a certain financial goal in order to move on in the relationship. It being talking stage to dating stage, like, first of all, you shouldn't be talking or dating anyone without enough funds.
let's yeah, say that again. Say that again.
So,
If you're
but,
broke, don't be asking people on dates. Don't do it.
don't be asking people on dates. Don't do that. But, I'm just saying, like, I'm just opening out there that sometimes these ultimatums also become too because we have certain set values that are in us from when we were children up until now that we have to set that precedent. So,
Yeah.
Just to add on to what was saying, I know a friend. She gave an ultimatum to the boyfriend, but like she did not do it directly. She sort of like went through like a pastor from the church because they were the same church, and the pastor set them down. And then this guy was like, "Look, I really want to marry you, but like I cannot do it now." Because I'm still in medical school. I am trying to be a doctor, and it's quite demanding. I cannot give you that right now, but in the next 2 to 3 years, I'm ready to settle down when I've
Mm-hmm.
finished my studies. So I think also like in that context, when you give an ultimatum, and maybe it's an opportunity for someone to like have a candid discussion. What are their reasons of not wanting to give you what you're looking for at that particular time? And
Mm-hmm.
having someone between you guys, like an advisor, mediate the discussion is also very helpful. So I mean, I don't think the outcome was bad,
Mm-hmm.
especially considering that the guy actually gave a time frame that I cannot do this because of school, but in 2 to 3 years time I'll be able to settle down. And speaking right now, they're actually engaged and planning to go back
Oh,
to get married. So I think it's important so that I know, like, what are your reasons for not wanting to give me this this thing that I'm asking for. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Thanks for bringing that example up, because it helps on their examples to like bring all the points together. And I think also, right, like when you have those discussions of like, okay, taking things to the next level. I don't know, guys. Okay, first of all, I've just men have even said when a man wants to marry someone, he just knows.
He
Like
knows.
they know in the first 6 months. They know in the first. So having heard that, right? If if you've been with someone for 6 years and other people out there have known in the first 6 months, right? And this person, because I think sometimes too, like sometimes really good point that I'm about to say. There are some people who make amazing boyfriends, and that's what they want. Like their calling is just to be an amazing boyfriend to somebody, but they don't want to cross over to a husband. So this guy as your boyfriend will be he will do everything for you, right? Anything that you could have dreamt of, but he just doesn't want to marry, And sometimes it's because as a guy, he himself, like he still wants to just not feel like he's tied into something legally with someone, or like you said, maybe he still feels like he wants to secure the bag, or maybe just like all these different reasons. And I think sometimes men don't, like, there are also situations where like a man will still keep a woman in a relationship. Okay, it's not like they're being kept by force. The women are also staying, but like a man will still keep a woman in a relationship under false, like false pretense, and like making this woman feel like, yeah, one day I'm gonna marry you, one day I'm gonna make you the mother of my children. So in this case, right, Kudzayi, in the case that you brought up, this guy at least was able to give a time frame, med school, at least you can see the end of the tunnel, like, okay, in 2 years or whatever, 3 years, like this will happen. Whereas I feel like sometimes some men out there will just keep dragging their feet. And they're not necessarily actually telling you the real reason why. Like they're not telling you that, like, okay, I'm not ready to marry you right now, but I don't think I will be ready to marry you even 5 years from now. You know what I mean? They just ended at, I'm not ready to marry you right now, which is why I honestly think that if it's come to that, and like you said, Kudzayi, you've had conversations about things and you're still not seeing progress, I think ultimately ultimatums are not a bad thing. I mean, you're just giving someone, like, because I think here's what I think. When if I'm to give somebody an ultimatum, I already know what I want. I know that I want to be with you. So the only other person who's keeping us from not being together, whether in terms of like being in a relationship or being married, is you. And now when you give an ultimatum, the ball is in your court. Do you want us to be in a relationship if we were talking? Or if we were in a relationship, do you want to progress to like getting married or not? Because the person issuing the ultimatum already knows what they want. And it's just now giving this person one last chance to decide what they want. And then ultimately, you do what's best for you. Before we then transition into talking about the show, I wanted to read some responses that people sent me on Instagram about this whole, I guess, ultimatums thing. And I think we've actually brought up these points in one shape or another. So someone said, sometimes you have to say what you need directly. They may not know it's a need and not a want, right? And so this person is saying they're pro ultimatum because you need to communicate your needs directly sometimes. Another person said, for other things, yes, it's okay to issue ultimatums, but for marriage, no. And I think I can see where the person is coming from, because ultimately, right, even if you force somebody to marry you who is not ready to marry you, it doesn't guarantee you that they're going to be a good spouse once you've crossed over. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's almost as if again, it depends on how it's done, but it could be taken as like you forced someone to be in something that they didn't want to be in. So this person thinks other things it's a yes, but not for marriage. Somebody said, I don't want it like this, meaning marriage, right? Like I don't want it, through like ultimatums. And this person just thinks like, let's not get to a point where I even have to issue an ultimatum. And another person said, it's just important for you to have adult conversations about this and talk it out instead of issuing ultimatums and then deciding what to do from there. Another girl said, you shouldn't have to ask for one. If someone generally wants you, they will do right by you, period. exclamation mark. And then somebody said, I don't know why people make it seem bad. Ultimatums work. They save you wasted time. So ultimately, what we're ultimately saying about ultimatums is, you know what? There's a time when it's necessary. There's a time when, you know, it might be necessary for you to pull it out as a last resort. And, you know, by all means, feel free to do it. Now, we're going to transition into talking about this show. And here's the thing, guys. Okay. In my opinion, this show is not the way to issue an ultimatum. It's not.
Yeah.
This is not the way to do it. So for people who didn't watch it on Netflix or whatever, The Ultimatum is this new series on Netflix where basically, you know, people have been in a relationship for at least like a year or 2 years, right? And one person is ready to get married. The other person is kind of not ready to get married. And so the person who's ready to get married issues an ultimatum to the other person, pretty much drags them onto the show. And they come onto the show and the shock horror. So the whole thing is you bring your boyfriend or your girlfriend to the show, and now people start dating other people, right? Because it's like you're in a relationship with, let's say, Janet and John are in a relationship, and Janet has issued an ultimatum to John. John isn't ready to marry. They get to this ultimatum place. Janet is now free to explore a relationship with like, or talking to like Tom, you know, Tongai, like all these different guys. And then Janet is going to pick who her top choice is. And then the same thing goes for Tom. Tom will pick from the girls who are there, who his top choice is. And then they actually go into, is it 3 weeks where like your partner who you came with on the show is living with somebody else and you are living with somebody else. Ha! First of all, guys, you would never catch me doing that. You would never catch me doing that. I don't think that like that's the way to solve your issues, because when you bring a relationship that's 2 years old, right? Like that's past your honeymoon phase as people who are in a relationship. And now you're like to your boyfriend, oh, just explore talking to somebody else. And, you know, ultimately at the end of these 3 weeks, you will realize I'm who you want. Girl, what? What? I mean, like, it's like you're comparing a 2-year relationship to something that's starting, guys. Like, you know, when something starts, like the butterflies are crazy, right? Like things are so exciting. So I just think if you want to issue an ultimatum, do it behind closed doors. Don't bring it to Netflix. That's my take on the show. Carol, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so on the show, I have mixed reviews, right? Where this is a hot topic because it's very controversial, right? And I'd like to take the element of the whole environment situation, right? We're coming from a very, like, why you said, this is it for me. It's because traditionally this will never happen. It will never happen. Especially in the public eye, right? A lot of like even marriages, sometimes, most times, they choose to resolve them in-house than rather even opening up to, let's say, the audience for public opinion. That was the first thing. The second thing I didn't like about the show was the age ranges of the couples that were on the show. And I picked up that most of them were, and I believe in high school sweetheart. It wasn't for me, unfortunately. I believe in high school sweetheart. I believe in people that go from college and get married. I believe in all of those things. But the age ranges for these people were kind of like so young, to the point where, have you really discovered yourself? That was my second point. And even like taking a stance. So, and also adapting to change as couples. How are you that young and both of you guys are going through different life situations and life changes. And now you have each other that are giving opinion on it. And then my third opinion about the show that I also didn't like was that I didn't feel like there was enough professional aid in the show. To some stance, I see how some couples could be able to confide in somebody else or talk to somebody else, but what was I didn't see no professional or even like, not therapy, because of course you can't be in therapy for like 3 weeks over one person. But there was no professional guidance over the show, and hurt people were advising hurt people on situations that are different from each case. So, and we didn't even know these people to the point where, is this a strength in your relationship for you to be advising me about my weakness in my relationship? So, I mean, that's my the show, and I think we're gonna go down and just talk about each couple. But I'll be within those three ranges in terms of like my opinion on it.
Oh, solid opening, Carol. Solid opening. Kudzayi, let's hear about your thoughts about this show.
So for this show, it was very intriguing for me. Firstly, the issue that your partner has to live with someone else's partner to try and decide if they really want to marry you. I mean, like, there's always going to be something better, something more exciting. So I definitely don't think that's a solid basis to try and decide whether you want to marry someone or not. If anything, it's just going to make you see your partner as lesser, and you just start seeing all the faults of which you're trying to decide on marriage. I think you need to be as objective as possible. So I think those conditions were not conducive. But generally, the idea of an ultimatum is good, but the whole system was done in a very wrong way. I mean, it stirred up so many emotions, and yeah, I just think like that wasn't the best way. And I recall like one of the guys, Jack, he kept on saying, I did not want to do this. I was literally and again, I did not want to do this. So I don't think you would have to like go to those extreme levels to try and save your relationship. So that's my opinion on that. I don't know if you guys want us to go
oh yeah we're gonna go into them. Let us actually start with Jake and April. So, April is the one who issued the ultimatum. April the whole time was singing about how she wants to be married and she wants to be a mom. Like she wants babies, right? So she brings on Jake. And her complaint was, I don't understand why Jake wants to like buy me a car, buy me houses or whatever, but he just doesn't want to marry me. Like make it make sense, right? So what were your thoughts about like the whole Jake and April situation? And then actually let's put in Ray into this situation as well.
So I'll start off by commenting. I think for starters, April was a bit immature in this whole set. I mean, she's 23 and Jake is also like 26, which is considerably young, right? And he had so many demands. I remember at this one point in time, I think Jake was discussing with his mom that April wants everything at once. She wants a house, she wants a baby, she wants a wedding, and I cannot give that to her. So I think it was actually very helpful because I think it made it much more clear that April and Jake wanted different things. Jake was unable to give everything to April as she was demanding it. And I think, of course, it wasn't like the right way of doing it. It really brought a lot of clarity on how compatible they were at that particular time. So I think it worked, especially in Jake's favor, because I mean, April was just demanding so much, and then bringing Ray into the twist, it gets more controversial. I think Ray and Jake were very compatible, and I remember Ray was confessing to Jake that, when it comes to her boyfriend, Zay, she's not so open about how she feels. But when it comes to Jake, she feels very comfortable to speak out without being pushed to express exactly how she feels. So it also like revealed that first of all, Jake and April were not compatible. Their relationship was not just going to happen. So I think Ray sort of like reinforced that point that, you know what, you can actually like meet someone who you're sort of on the same page with, and you can decide on the serious issues much later without the whole pressure of wanting everything at once. So yeah, that's
Yo, you know what's so interesting about this? And I like your very thorough analysis. What's so interesting about this is how like we watched the same show and we just took different things. I think we just have different perspectives on these things. Looking at this, right, I think what you said was that this ultimatum worked out for Jake. I actually think that this ultimatum worked worked out for April, because at the reunion, she was talking about how she's found someone who like tells her everything she wants to hear. Like, this guy can't wait to marry her. This guy can't wait for kids and all of that stuff. And I think ultimately, I guess, whatever timeline she was on, she feels like she didn't end up just wasting time with a guy maybe who would have been an amazing boyfriend, but who might actually not commit. And the reason why I'm bringing this up with the whole Jake situation is, you know, Jake obviously turned down April. And then he said that he was giving Ray like this ticket to go anywhere in the world. Well, first of all, let me also say that my opinions on this are very biased because I don't like Ray at all. Everything about her annoys me so much, because now I'm actually even talking about Ray and Zay, because she brought Zay to the show. She issued the ultimatum, but she wouldn't open up. Like, we literally saw it on camera where she wouldn't open up, right? And I think Zay had a lot of issues where he does need to work through therapy, but he did actually love this girl. And for her to then start talking to this new Jake guy, and then she just feels like she can just open her heart out and just tell him, "Oh, that girl, bye." Anyway, all of this to say, I don't necessarily think that Jake is like a saint per se, in the sense that, I mean, if he really was a saint at the reunion, why was he not together with Ray? Because it seemed like even those two, like, whatever we saw on Netflix, we saw on Netflix, but they're not actually a thing, at least from what I got from that reunion. So ultimately, I also just think that Jake might also just be a commitment phobe. And maybe, again, like you said, it has to do with the age thing, where right now, like, he's 26 and he's not ready to commit. And maybe, hey, 4 years from now when he's 30, he'll feel ready to commit. But I just got the sense that, bro, like, if you really actually wanted to commit and Ray was as amazing as you thought she was, why were you guys not engaged by the time you came to the reunion? Like, make it make sense. You know what I mean? That's my thought. Carol, let's hear your thoughts on them.
Yeah, so the Jake and April situation, I think I definitely agree with Kudzayi that April is very immature. I was April before. I was no, seriously. No, it's funny now, and I look back at it, and I'm older now, and I was the typical person amongst all my friends that would say, "I want to have babies by 22," and I didn't know the work that came with.
Oh, I remember those days. I remember those days.
I would literally say it every day to a point where it seemed like a manifestation. Thank goodness it did not come to fruition. Because now it's like, over time, I just felt like, it was, I don't even know the definition of it. I still have to work on it, but I'm happier now without kids than I am if I would have had kids at that time. So, and even when it came to April, I think I'll go against you, Michelle, when you said, it worked because she found someone which, I think April is very petty. I think she was.
Oh, wow.
No, I think she's definitely
lying.
And it comes with her age, right? I think she was saying those things in order to punch, like in order to like hurt Jake, because she was humiliated in the show, if I may say. Like, how do you bring on someone he finds love and even now they're not in love? No, seriously, it's very shameful. No, that's why I could never do the show, because the shame that will come from it, from people just telling me, really, you at your big age, you decided to just go on a show to air out your business and do all of that. So yeah, I think that's my Jake. And I think Jake.
Wait, Carol. So ultimately, you're saying you don't even think April has this person. Like, this person it could be a made up person.
I think they're there.
That's what I think.
I don't think, I think it's an exaggeration for her to say, "Oh, he tells me I can't wait to marry you in the morning, in the afternoon, when I'm at work." No one is saying that, because let me tell you, one person, you don't speak on marriage that frequently, and you don't even have a ring on your finger. Like, I was expecting.
Well, but I mean, she also said that he's a bit older, so he does. When she said a bit older, that could be like he's 40. You know what I mean? So it's possible that he said, "I want to marry you. I want to marry you."
Yeah, and if he's older, that means he's more determined to go ahead and do what he needs to do. He doesn't need to be reassuring a person 3 times a day, every single day, to, and I mean, that's just my take, okay? That's my take. I just think that she's kind of like spiteful because she was humiliated in the situation. She did the one thing that we all do after a big transition. Her hair had completely changed.
That was not working at all.
Yeah.
At all.
So I mean, regardless of what's happening, it's like she also came to the reunion. I'm new. I'm me. I'm okay. I'm doing well. The show. Yeah. No, I don't think. I think that's still a front. And at the end of the day, it's a show. And then what's her name? Ray, when she came into the situation, I don't even think they were compatible. I think they were familiar with each other and they both were scarring the same way. And both of them just needed like a last call to say, let me cut off these strings.
Okay,
yeah,
girl.
so I think it worked out in that sense that they both came to the same show. One was dragged onto it, one gave the ultimatum, but both of them in their heads kind of already knew that this wasn't going to work out, but let's just do it for TV. Yeah.
Let's just do it for TV.
Yeah, so which makes me hurt because Zay was actually one of my favorite people on this show.
Yes.
He definitely was. He's, you know, at the end of the day, and I like Shanique for that because Zay and his trauma, if I may say, and the lack of and I keep saying that there was a lack of professional advice on this show. Because I could see how Zay can be a very much a better person if he's given the right tools to guide himself up, right? Even I was like, okay, Zay, I can date you, you know.
Yeah, you had to say it with your chest, girl. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you know, Shanique brought her in an element where he was comfortable, right, and he was vulnerable, which is very attractive for any woman in a man to have. So,
yes.
So it's not. It wasn't even Shanique that brought it out of him. It was Shanique's family, and then because that's something Zay was missing in his own. So for them two, Zay and Ray, to be matching, and that's the thing that I was saying, that they are high school people. They all work out, and what's her name? Ray's opening statement. She said, "Oh, I go to the gym all the time, and I like to, you know." And I was just like, "Oh, how? That's
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
how are you introducing yourself like that? Like, I don't maturity for this whole cast. Oh, a mess. But I see how it was. In long run, I think it was more helpful for Zay, because at the end of the day, he still continued doing what he was a promoter. I still think that he's a fun guy. You know, his temper is a little hot, but he's also triggered by certain things. I felt the reunion when. And I told Michelle this opinion that I felt at the reunion when Ray was talking. A lot of women were like, "Ray, stand up for yourself. Stand up. Finally, you're outspoken." Like, no. Let me tell you what that situation did. As Zay is, he was in a state of confusion because the person I was with after the show is now not saying that we were together or saying the reason why they took this flight. That was tick off number one. Tick off number two is raising a voice to anybody is already, I'm going to be defensive regardless. And now threw in the word, "You're attacking me." For me, the moment she threw in that word in the discussion, I applaud Zay for every time he gets hot, he gets up and leaves the situation and comes back with, because it would have painted a different image and fitted the stereotype of Black men having temper issues, or it was a very abusive situation. She was using trigger words that put him in a bubble of him being the victim, where he was just like, "Hey, we were together, we were working towards this, but now you're on TV and you're saying something different, and it makes me look crazy." So yeah, that's my opinion.
That was very solid, and we're gonna get close to time, so we'll have to do kind of high-level statements on each of these couples here.
Yeah.
So Maddie and Colby, my one thing is I was shocked, first of all, that he asked her to marry. Well, actually, I wasn't shocked that he asked her to marry him. I was shocked that she said yes, number one. And then I was shocked that they actually got married on the same day. I think that Colby actually genuinely, like, you know, when people talk about a man who adores a woman, like, I saw, like, that's the one guy on camera where I've been like, okay, the way this guy loves this girl is beyond me, right? And I just think, I'm going to say it, I think Madeline is toxic. I think she's a problem. A very, 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 very big problem. Master of confusion. That's how I'm going to leave it.
I would go with the opinion of Colby is a crazy one. Both of them are not supposed to be together. I don't even know why they decided to have a child. But you know, to each their own, right? Because at the end of the day, he came in with a stance and he did things that weren't abiding by his stance. Right.
Actually, in his defense, I think that the biggest issue that Maddie had was that he wasn't accepting the fact that what he did was wrong. I actually took some time to understand what he was doing. What he was saying was this: imagine I brought someone to this ultimatum show and I was actually supposed to choose someone, but that person ended up getting engaged. One of those messy engagements that happened at the table. So ultimately, the person who brings someone on the show is left with the short hand of the stick, where like now he was just by default paired with April because those are the two people who didn't find somebody, right?
He was paired with April, but he was in the Austin streets doing everything.
No. Okay, well, first of all, I do not know what everything was that he did. From what I understood, he told that girl that he was in an open relationship. And at the time, right, when this 3-week trial with somebody else's partner was happening, that was actually what you would call like either people who were on a break or a breakup or in an open relation. Like that's what that was. So what he was doing was, listen, I'm not going to get whatever Maddie is getting from whoever she's with the person who she picked, right? He had April, who maybe they weren't like physically attracted. So nothing was happening in that department. So it's like, I mean, I kissed somebody else, right? So I think Madeline is just immature. She's toxic. I mean, even she was out here pressing Shanique's buttons because she's the one who had what's his name, Randall, right? And I was like, girl, why are you? Oh man, that girl.
I also want to say that I think Madeline was very disappointed that Randall at the end wasn't like so interested, in getting physical with her. And had Randall,
he saw the crazy.
And had Randall been giving in that aspect, maybe should have probably not accepted Jake's proposal. But I think it actually made her appreciate Jake more because Randall sort of like rejected her in a like very sad way. And she had come into this whole ultimatum thing saying that she really doesn't think that there's only one person for her. What if like she's happy with someone? So I think for her it just reinforced that she is going to end up with Jake. And I think it worked more for Jake than for her because I think that things would have turned out a little bit different if they had been on the same page with Randall.
And I have I guess a segue into rejection on the topic of rejection. I guess I would like to tie it in with Alexis and Hunter.
Right? Please, let's go there, Auntie.
Because my opinion on Alexis and Hunter, I feel like Alexis only decided to say yes to that proposal because she got embarrassed and rejected
by Colby.
Yeah, that was so embarrassing, guys.
It's embarrassing. And even did you see her like in the confessional? She was like, "Do you see me? I'm like, no, calm down.
Yeah, like sis, calm.
Yeah,
princess, please. Okay." So, I mean, I feel like she chose her. And then, the other thing I didn't like that she said, she's just like, yeah, if it wasn't for financial stability, I wouldn't be with Hunter. Right.
Yes.
And then it was one of those things where Hunter was actually open to meeting new people. And Hunter is a good friend, if I may say, because he was a shoulder for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that was a good thing. But he came in and he knew he wanted to marry. But I think, thank goodness Alexis met Colby, because I think the reception would have been different if she met someone who she was attracted to and equally
sort of like was attracted.
Yeah. So the dating pool for Alexis was minized, and that's why she accepted that proposal, because of that rejection.
That is solid.
And I think Hunter really did. I mean, he sort of like redeemed Alexis from all that embarrassment.
It works in favor for Hunter. It did.
It did. Let's quickly talk about Nate and Lauren. So their big thing was Nate was talking about how he wanted kids. He's like the male version of April. He wanted kids, right? And his person, Lauren, did not want to have kids. Anyway, he sees that Colby, I think it was going to be Colby who was going to choose Lauren. Some guy was about to be with Lauren. Then this guy goes and pops the question. First of all, I was surprised that happened. Secondly, I was even more surprised that she said yes to that proposal. And I think that, what do you guys think? Especially like on an issue like kids, I feel like, man, if somebody wants kids and somebody does not want kids, like there's no middle ground. You cannot have 0.5 of a child. You know what I mean? So what are your guys' thoughts on that one?
I do not like that whole couple period, right? And the opinion is you guys walked onto a show because you guys weren't agreeing. There's so many women out here with wombs and ready to have babies. We also we're also in an environment where you don't have to be married to have children.
That's true.
So I think the preface of their ultimatum was it was great that it was different, but it was based off the kids and not based off marriage, right? The reason why Lauren was saying no is because the reason he sees marriage is because he sees kids, and I don't see it as that. I think those are two separate entities, and they're different environments. Like, let's say, for example, like if she couldn't have kids, if she has trauma based off kids, she has a stance, has her opinion. And when they came on, the proposal was, it's not dimming light because you don't pick when you want to. I don't ever think it's a perfect time to propose. Sometimes the wind is blowing in the direction where you're heading. It's never a perfect time, but would I have done that? I think they should have just stepped out and say, hey, I don't think this process is for us. Because all they did talk about was just say we need to go to therapy for this. And that's what I think they should have done. I don't think the proposal should have happened. I think they literally had the conversation, hey, we need to go to therapy, and he agreed. So it should have been based off that instead of coming on a show and proposing. And then, because it's still a problem.
That's true. But I mean, to their credit or whatever, when they came for the reunion, they did say they've been going to therapy, and she is open to having one child now.
Yeah.
So you know what? I mean, honestly, it's good for them. It's good that it worked out for them that way. We truly wish them the best. I guess to just wrap things up, Shanique and Randall, for me, I was actually surprised, first of all, that he proposed. I wasn't sure. Like I was actually like so stressed because I was like, I don't know. Like the way he was shaking up there, he was crying like, oh, you're my best friend. I was like, is this how he's going to be like, you're my best friend, but I can't do this. Yeah. And then he proposed. But then to come to the reunion and see that they're not like engaged anymore. What are your guys' thoughts about that? And also, I will say though, I really, really liked Shanique. I think she's a beautiful woman. She did have a little bit of her little crazy. We'll give her that when she was saying, I just want you to sit on the corner. And also maybe she was tipsy. She had something to drink. But what are your guys' thoughts?
I think in some really a brief summary, I like that they are not engaged. And I think it was a failure of just the show, and it's fulfilled this. And I'm happy that they came to the realization that they're not compatible, because I didn't see that. I think Shanique is a very strong personality. And things that are set in her ways, and that goes with the age difference things. Women tend to mature faster than men, and tend to be ready for certain things in life faster than men, and that's okay. And she just proved that by showing this, so that's it.
That's true. And actually he actually referred to her as bossy. I feel like when he was talking about her, he was like, oh yeah, she's very bossy. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this phrase.
He was like, it's either Shanique's way or there's no other way, which sets a very bad tone for a relationship. I mean, there should be like compromises between two people in a relationship. And I think Shanique was kind of bossy in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, I think what Carol was saying, right, where the truth of it is maybe they're just not compatible. I think maybe Shanique needs like an alpha male. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very strong.
She needs somebody who's like, also like a go-getter. I didn't really get the sense that Randall was a go-getter, to be honest. He just seemed very calm about life. Soft. No, I don't know about this stuff, but too relaxed about life. Whereas like, Shanique is like, she's on a go. So I think it is a matter of like being compatible. But we're at time, and I just wanted to say thank you both so much for this conversation. I had a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys doing this.
Nice being here, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol and Michelle. This was such a fun discussion. I mean, I had also an opportunity to hear the other side, why people are against ultimatums, and I think it completely makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks so much for shedding light on like the other side of like being pro ultimatums as well. So that's it from us, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Hit me up at Unpacking Love with your thoughts on ultimatums. Are you for them? Are you against them? What are your reasons? What were your thoughts on the show? Happy to hear all of that. So then, peace. Ndiwe wandiro ya moyo wangu, ndiwe wandikanganisa fungo zangu.